schedule. If you are able to attend any virtual college fairs, I highly recommend that you do that. We have a lot of students that are applying out of state, but you can't necessarily go and visit every out-of-state school before you apply to them. So it's just the best way for you to get more information about the college. So I do recommend that you go ahead and do any virtual tours if you can. Ever since COVID, the colleges have really improved the virtual options that they do have on their websites. It used to be you'd have to go on like Campus Reel, for example, but every college now does have virtual admission sessions where you have an admissions officer speaking to you, letting you know about the process, what they're looking for. And then they do also have the virtual tours that you could do. All right. If you have the opportunity to visit in person, fantastic, do it. There's nothing like being in person on campus to see what student life is like, the surrounding area, but I know it's not possible for everyone. All right. So that would be the best thing to do. There are also admissions officers coming and speaking at your high schools. So normally the College and Career Center will have a list of the schools that are speaking. If you do not find it at the College and Career Center and you use the Naviance program, for example, a lot of times on the Naviance program, they are going to give you all the information that you need and let you know what time and what days the admissions officers are coming to speak. So I would definitely join in on those if possible. Okay. You will be finalizing your college list. And when we say 3-tiered, what we're looking at is we're looking at your safety, your core, and your reach schools. Okay. So I sent out a notice to our students maybe a couple weeks ago, and as well to parents regarding the financial aid process, just letting you know that, we would like you to have your list finalized beginning of October, if possible. The reason that we like to see your list finalized in October is because that is when we are able to start filing financial aid forms for our families. And in order for us to do that, we need your college list because we need to send it to the schools you're applying to. I do understand that your list may change, and that is perfectly fine. All right. Maybe in November or December, you even end up adding new schools or removing certain ones. If you have a change to your list, you just need to make sure that you are sending us an updated college picks form. Okay. So the college picks form was sent out to your parents. It was also sent out to you guys in my most recent email. So if you have not filled that out just yet, please be sure to return that to me. Okay. Next, you need to decide if you are in fact applying early to any of your schools. So this is something that I had mentioned in calls to you guys. There's the option of early action and early decision. I will be talking a little bit more about that when I'm going through this PowerPoint as well. Okay. And then a really important thing right now is to request your teacher recommendations. So this is something that we mentioned to you guys back in spring. Some teachers told you, hey, come back to me in the fall. This is too early. No worries. But you do just want to make sure that you are speaking with your teachers now, because if you end up applying early action, the deadlines are typically November 1st, November 15th. Some of them could even be October 15th. All right. So talk to your teachers. We'll be going through that a little bit more as well. And then obviously working on your essays. Some of them refer to them as your personal statement. You should also be working on any supplemental essays that you may have for schools if you're applying to them like early action, because again, those need to be submitted around November 1st, if not earlier. Okay. All right. So I think we've got everybody in here now. Okay. All right. So the other thing is you're going to want to get a copy of your transcript. If you do not currently have one that lists every course and every grade you've taken up until this point, so end of summer, you need to get a copy of that. Reason for that is you are going to be including the courses and grades in your applications. So Cal State App will ask for every course, every grade, the UCs will. And then for common application, not every school requires it, but you may have to do that on the common application as well. And that's something I will be going over with you today, as well as entering your courses and grades. All right. Completing final drafts of your essays. Again, if you're submitting for early action, early decision, you're going to want to submit your applications at the end of October. So you need to make sure that your drafts are finalized in the first 2 weeks of October. Okay. Scheduling any interviews with schools that offer them. All right. So I did send out an email a few weeks ago about college admissions interviews. So every school is different with what their protocol is for interviews. All right. Some of them, they may allow you to go in and actually request an interview. Others, they will reach out to you once they receive your application. Okay. So it's important that you go onto the college's website and you look at what their interview protocol is. Okay. Just so you are aware, UC's, Cal States, they don't offer interviews. They never have. I don't think they will. They've got too many applicants. But there are other schools like Northwestern, for example, that after you submit your application, they will reach out to you if they have any alumni in your local area so they can do an interview with you. All right. So make sure you go in and you check the interview protocol for the schools that you are applying to. All right. The other thing that we do tell students is once you've had an interview, it's great for you to actually send a thank you note to that alumni or to that admissions officer that you interviewed with. Handwritten notes are best. It just shows them that you have taken the time to actually write them a thank you rather than a simple email. So we do recommend doing that. There is a kind of a little template on your custom college plan account with a template for a thank you note on there if you wanted to go ahead and write that for them. Okay. So November and December, if you are reporting SAT, ACT, for example, you're going to need to request the official score reports be sent to the colleges you are applying to. This is done through the actual testing center. So if it's ACT, it's done through actstudent.org. And if you're doing it through SAT, it's through College Board. All right. There are some schools that would specifically state we allow self-reporting. And what that means is you will self-report your scores on your application. I'll show you how to do that. But they don't require the official score reports. Now, they will make their admissions decision based off of what you reported on your application. But if you were to commit to them, then they are going to want to see your official test score reports, and they're going to want to see like your transcripts, for example, because if you are self-reporting, you could lie on it. Hopefully you won't, but that's why they will ask you for official later on. You just don't need to have official test score reports sent by the application deadline. Okay. So one question I do get here is with reporting test scores, AP test. So on your applications, you will also report your AP scores. The AP scores are going to be reported if it's a 3 or higher, because 1 or 2 is not passing. So we don't recommend you report a 1 or a 2. But you do not have to have official AP score reports sent to the colleges when you are applying. You will only send official AP score reports once you have committed to the school, okay? And the reason for that is the AP exam scores, those are used in order for them to determine if you're getting college credit at their school, okay? So that's the reason you don't need to spend the money and send it to every school you're applying to. You only need it for the school that you are going to be committing to. But official score reports do need to be sent for ACT and SAT. All right. The other thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're requesting your transcripts and any like secondary school reports be sent. This is important for common application schools specifically, and if there are any schools that have their own applications like NAU, for example. So here you need to either speak with your counselor and give them your complete list of colleges so they know where reports need to be sent, because official transcripts will be sent. There are certain school reports that need to be sent as well, like a counselor recommendation. All right. So some of you don't use Naviance, and if that's the case, then you need to speak with your college counselor directly. All right. And then for those of you that do use Naviance, you need to make sure you go into your program and you have every single school you are applying to listed on there, because the Naviance program will link to your colleges. And what's nice is it just makes it easier for your counselors to send any reports. They know specifically what schools you're applying to. Okay. You will also be submitting applications at this time. So early action, typically November 1st, November 15th. UC's, Cal States, those are due November 30th. So you're going to be submitting a good amount of applications in the month of November. All right. And then we always recommend that students try to submit the rest of their applications by winter break. That way it's just, you're done with apps. You can come back into spring semester and enjoy the senior activities that they're going to have for you. Okay. So that's one thing that I do recommend doing. And then you also have to make sure supporting documentation is being sent. And what I mean by supporting documentation is that's going to be official transcripts that your school sends. It's going to be recommendation letters if they require it. All right. So your applications themselves are not considered complete if they don't have the application and all supporting documents that they require. Okay. January, if you did not finish your applications in December, you should be submitting in January. Some of you, in order to get maybe a slight boost in your GPA, are going to wait until you have fall semester grades to submit some of your applications with later deadlines. All right. So if you are waiting and you want to submit in January for maybe like a January 31st or like February 1st deadline, that's fine. I would definitely, talk to us. We're able to maybe calculate a GPA to kind of see realistically where you stand and what the improvement may be. Because sometimes it's not much and it won't make a difference. So we would just recommend getting them in over winter break. Okay. You want to follow up with the colleges to make sure that your file is complete. And what I mean by this is you're going to be checking your college portals. So once you do end up applying to the schools, usually within about 2 to 3 weeks or so, the college will specifically send you an email. They are going to ask you to create a portal for their school. And then this is their way for you to check and make sure they have everything that they need. So this would show them that they've received your application, they've received your letters of rec, your official transcripts. It also has the financial aid portion on there as well. So you can confirm if the FAFSA has been received or the CSS profile, for example. So that's the financial aid side. But you do want to make sure that the colleges have everything they need in order for your file to be complete so they can start the review. Okay. You want to make sure, again, that your high school counselor has the complete list of schools. And reason for this is there are colleges that are going to request the mid-year report. So although you are going to be submitting your application most of you, before your fall grades are in, a lot of the colleges are going to ask for mid-year reports. They want to make sure that you are passing your classes and you're still doing well. So this is where we mentioned senioritis. I know senior year could be very stressful. You guys have a lot going on. Your teachers don't take it easy on you. You have just as much homework, just as many tests, but it's so important that you don't slack off in your senior year, because a college could offer you admission. And let's say you don't do well your first semester, so fall semester, which you're in right now, and they see your mid-year report and your grades have dropped drastically. It is possible for them to actually rescind your offer. So I don't want to scare you, but it's important that you do well. If you went from straight A's and you're getting a B, that's not going to hurt you. But if you go to straight C's, get a D, which isn't passing, they can take away that offer of admission. So just try to stay on top of it. All right. If you're struggling in any courses, make sure you get a tutor, talk to your teachers. Okay. There's also scholarship searches you can do. And the reason that we bring this up in January is because realistically, you should have all of your apps in by winter break. So this gives you a little bit time to actually start working on scholarships. And what I mean by scholarship search is these are private or outside organization scholarships that you can apply to. So we had sent out links a little while ago about outside scholarships. So when I had sent it out, a lot of them weren't available yet because it was early, but that's something you could be working on now if you wanted to. With the scholarship search, you can use the links that we had sent you. The other thing I had mentioned is if you wanted to even talk to your parent's employer, for example, there are some companies that offer scholarships for their employees' children, or you can look and just see what's in your local area as well. Okay. But definitely apply for a few like outside scholarships. All right. And then you should be writing thank you notes to any of your recommenders. So teachers, there are the personal recommenders as well. Maybe it was like a music teacher or a sports coach, a pastor. Just write a little thank you note. Obviously, they've taken the time to help you in the application process. So that's just the polite thing to do. Okay. February and March, again, completing any scholarship applications. And then there is something called a Cal grant. So with the Cal Grant, what this is it's financial aid that is based off of the household income and your GPA. So you will get a letter from your school about the Cal Grant, and it's a form that you and your parents need to sign and date. And what they're doing is they're just confirming your Cal Grant GPA, and they will pass that along to the Cal Grant Commission to see if you are eligible for the actual Cal Grant itself. All right. So you do need to keep a lookout for this. It's something I'll mention to you guys later on in like conference calls and stuff, but just as a heads up, in February, this is when you're typically receiving the Cal Grant form. Okay. And then obviously you're registering for AP exams as well. Okay. So in the month of April, by then you should have heard from pretty much all of the schools you are applying to. You do want to participate in the admitted student days that they have going on for you. And this is where I'd mentioned, if you're not able to visit now before you apply, you will definitely be visiting before you actually commit to a school. Okay. I never recommend that you commit to a school without having seen it in person first. Okay, so admitted student events are great. You get to see all the other, high school seniors that have been admitted, but it's also when they are in session. So you get to see the other students on campus. Maybe you can sit in on a class with the professor. So that's something I recommend doing if possible. But most students will end up doing a lot of their college visits during spring break and go see everything that they can before they have to make their final decision in May. Okay. You may be hearing back from schools about the wait list. So I'll be talking about this again, but if you do hear that you're on the wait list, you want to make sure that you respond to them immediately and you let them know that you do want to remain on the wait list. Okay. The other thing is you're going to have to make your final decision, like I said, by May 1st. That is the national commit day, May 1st. Okay. So when you are submitting your intent to register, you're also going to be submitting housing requests. You'll get a bunch of information about the school and how to do the housing requests and everything. Okay. You also need to notify your counselor of what your decision is, because they will be sending any final transcripts to the school. All right. And then the last thing is going to be to just notify your recommenders of your decision. They've taken the time to write these letters for you. You do want to let them know where you're going to be attending. All right. Okay. So next is we're going to talk just a bit about getting organized here. So I personally love to see things on paper in front of me. I know everybody does everything electronic nowadays, but I like to be able to walk past my desk and see what I need to be doing for the day. So my recommendation is you have a binder, you print out a month-to-month calendar. Okay, so that way you can mark off specific dates. If you want to assign certain tasks on what you need to be working on for a specific time frame, you can do that. You want to make note of all your deadlines, type of application that you're going to be using. Is it the Cal State app? Is it the Common? Is it the UC? Is it their own application? Okay. You want to mark off the essays that you have to write. So there are schools that have supplemental essays. So not only are you writing the main Common App essay, but you may have 4, 5, 6 additional essays that you have to write for one specific school. So it's important for you to know now how many essays you're writing. The supplementals themselves are a lot more straightforward than what you're going to find for the UC or the main Common App. Okay. So those are typically, reviewed one time and they're ready to go. But you still have to take the time to sit down and write them. Some are 50 words, some are 500 words. So make sure you have a piece of paper, a calendar set. This is when my deadline is. This is what I need for the school, how many extra essays I have to write. And then you also need to know whether or not they do require letters of rec. So every school is different. Cal State's UCs, they're not going to look at it, but some of your common application schools will. Okay. Again, you can use your custom college plan account for those of you that have access to it with us. This is where you can see deadlines, for example, and what the supplementals are, but you're also able to see it on the actual application itself. Okay. You want to make a checklist. So were all documents sent? Was the application in? Your official score reports, the letters of recommendation, any mid-year reports. All right. You want to go ahead and mark all of that off. And then, like I said, you're going to have to create portals for the schools that you apply to in order for you to keep track of your application. So the portal, you're going to have all of your usernames and passwords. Every college is different with what they require for a password. So you may have 6, 7, 8 different passwords based on the schools you applied to. It's important for you to mark this off so you're able to check that. When it comes to the portals, once you've created that, you should be checking your college portals on a weekly basis. Honestly, I would say multiple times a week, because it's really important. If they were to send you a notification saying that they're missing something, they will assign you a specific deadline that they need to receive that by. Okay, so portals are so important. I'll be talking to you guys about this a little bit more later on, but just keep that in mind. You will be creating portals for the colleges you apply to. Okay. All right, so here I'm going to talk a little bit about early action and early decision. All right, so at this time, a lot of you are you're deciding whether or not you're going to do either one of these. You don't have to, but this is just to kind of give you an idea of what it is. So with early decision, this is a binding decision. So essentially what they're saying is, if you are applying to our school and you are admitted, you will be attending our college. Okay. You are expected to withdraw all other applications. So if you're applying by November 1st, typically early decision, you hear back around maybe December 15th, December 20th. If at that time you have been admitted, you are withdrawing all other applications that you've submitted up until this point. You are not applying to any other schools either. Okay. With early decision, there is a way that you can back out on that. And the only reason they would allow you to back out with early decision is if financially you are not able to afford it. So if you were admitted to a school, they send you the financial aid award, and it's just not possible for the family to afford that, you can back out of your early decision agreement. But they need, you have to explain those circumstances and they're going to back that up with a bunch of, they're going to look at taxes. And so there's a lot of information that they need in order for you to be able to back out of an early decision agreement. The one thing that you need to be aware of is sometimes I have students that are like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm going to apply ED and then I'm just going to back out. I don't know if it's my top school. When you are applying early decision on the common application, you, your parents, and your high school counselor are all signing an agreement saying that you will be attending the school if you are admitted. And because it is on the common application, other colleges can see that you're applying ED. So if they find out that you've backed out and you were admitted, it doesn't look very good. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Like, don't take this lightly. Don't just say, I'm going to apply ED and I'm going to back out. It doesn't matter. That's not the case. If you feel that way, then you should probably be doing early action because it's not binding. Okay. So I maybe have, honestly, 2 or 3 students a year that apply ED. For them, it's like, this is my dream school, 100%. This is where I'm going if I'm admitted. I know that my family can afford it. So this is why they're doing ED. Okay. When you're doing ED, you're essentially committing by January. They'll give you a deadline of like January to commit to their school or back out. Okay. With early decision, early action and early decision, both, it can improve your chances of being admitted. Okay. So I'm just going to throw out 2 examples right here, Cornell and North Washington. All right. They have both of them around 7 or 8% admit rate. If you are applying early decision, that jumps to 21, 22%. So it's a pretty big jump. But again, you need to know that this is where you want to attend and you will be committing and withdrawing all other applications. They don't take it lightly when you do back out. Okay. Now, on the other side, early action, it's non-binding. If your schools offer it, you could apply to 10 schools early action. Okay. Both early action and early decision can improve your chances of being admitted. Every school is different with what that percent increase may be. So one school could be a 2 to 4% increase. Another one could be 15 to 20% increase. Okay. So what you're able to do is, if you want to see what the difference is between early action and regular, you would actually be able to Google that. You can just say, Northwestern early decision admit rate versus regular decision admit rate, and it'll provide you with the numbers. Okay. Sometimes it's pretty hard to find it on the college's website, but there's usually like the college data website, for example, that will provide that information to you. So if you're considering this and you want to see what your chances are and how much improvement you have percentage wise, you can go ahead and Google that for all of your schools, and you can include that in that, spreadsheet or that binder that you're creating, so you have an idea. Okay. But like I said, there's no restriction to that. So one thing that's nice about early action and early decision is you will find out around that December 15th, December 20th. Okay. So a lot of students, what's nice is you go into winter break knowing that you've already been admitted to a school. Sometimes this could even mean that you're not applying to any other schools that have later deadlines. So most private and public out-of-state schools have deadlines of like January and February. So let's say you hear back from maybe 3 of your early action schools and you've been admitted already. You could actually just remove those other schools from your list if you would prefer to go to that school you've been admitted to early action. Okay. So with early action, again, it's non-binding. You'll find out over winter break whether or not you've been admitted, but you still have until May 1st to make your final decision. Okay. So you would be able to hear back from all of your other schools before you have to commit. You don't have to withdraw any other applications when it comes to early action. Okay. So not every school offers early action. Not every school offers early decision. You will be able to see what they offer in the common application itself. You can also find what's being offered on your custom college plan account because those deadlines are listed there for you as well. Okay. There's another thing called single choice or restrictive early action. This is something that Stanford has, Princeton has it as well. And what it means is it's not binding, okay? But you still have until May 1st to decide, but you are only able to apply to that one specific school early. So I had mentioned with regular early action, you can apply to 10 schools early action. They don't care. With single choice or restrictive, you can only apply to 1. Okay. When it comes to early decision, you are only allowed to apply to 1 school early decision, so 1 binding school, but you are still able to apply to other non-binding early. Okay. And this is something that we can kind of lay out with each of you when you are deciding whether or not you're applying to a school early. I can tell you, hey, these are your options for early action. You can do 5 of them, or this one is single choice or restrictive, so you only have the option to do this. So it just depends on really what you want to do and what your school list consists of. Okay. There's rolling, priority, and regular as well. So rolling admission, it stays open until the class is filled, essentially. So you'll see sometimes with rolling admissions, there are schools that may accept applications until August of next year. So maybe you've applied to a bunch of schools, you've gone to visit, and you're like, I don't really love any of them, and you still want to apply to a couple other schools to see what your options are. You could potentially have a rolling admission school, and then you apply to them at a later time. Even with rolling admission, I still recommend students apply early, okay? Because again, the class could fill up. There's priority admission as well. So some schools will say, this is our priority deadline. So they want your application by that specific date. If you don't, they will still accept it after, only if they have spots available once they've looked over their priority admission applications. Okay. So again, if they have a deadline, you want to meet that. Okay. Regular admission, it's a specific deadline. Okay. That's where it brings its class from. You have to, this is UC's Cal State's. It's November 30th. That's it. That's their regular deadline. You can't apply afterwards. Okay. Now, there are some colleges that have earlier deadlines in order for you to be considered for the maximum amount of scholarships. So merit aid. So one of those schools, as an example, is Boston University. They have an early action. They have a scholarship deadline. And then they have a regular deadline, okay? Early decision, apologies, not early action. So for this school, if you don't want to apply to them early decision, but you do want to be considered for the maximum amount of scholarship, you have to apply to them by December 1st instead of their normal January deadline, okay? And these are all things that you can find obviously on their website and on the custom college plan account as well. Okay, so these are just some decisions that, some deadlines that you need to be aware of, okay, and what these meanings are. Now, if you're applying early, these are some things that you should consider, okay? So if you have an idea of really where you want to be and in the top 25% of applicants, it would be good to apply early. The reason that I had mentioned that you may be in the top 25% of applicants is because early action or early decision could have students that are more competitive. Okay, so they're done with testing, they're happy with their grades. So this is why I mentioned applying if you could be in the top 25%, is because it is a competitive applicant pool. Yes, it improves your chances of being admitted, but you need to be within the top of like GPA test scores, for example, if you're submitting that. Okay, if you're satisfied with where your record stands, you can apply early as well. So earlier I had mentioned if you are a student who we need a little boost in GPA and we want to see your fall semester grades first, you should not be applying early action. Okay. Another important thing with early is your essays need to be finalized and they need to be the best possible version. Okay. I have a lot of students that are like, oh my gosh, I have to apply early. I'm not going to get in if I don't, but their essays are not ready. If that's the case, you should not be submitting a bad essay just because you want to apply to a school earlier. Okay. So don't rush the essay process. I know we've been working with you guys on these for like a few months now. All right. Essays are really, really important, especially right now when schools are test optional and a lot of you are not submitting scores. You need to make sure your essays are really good. Okay. So that's why I made this note here, like early isn't better for everybody. So keep that in mind. This is where you need to make sure you are finalizing essays over the next few weeks and you are starting your supplemental essays if you have not already, because that November 1st deadline is about a month away, right? Now, creating that 3-tiered list, this is your safety core and reach, okay? Typically, students are applying to about 12 schools or so. Over the past year or two, I've seen students applying to a lot more, and that is perfectly fine. I do not care how many schools you apply to, as long as you have a good balance of schools, okay? Our goal for you is we want you to have options to choose from. We don't want it to be, I applied to 8 reaches, I applied to 1 core school, and all I did was get into my core and I don't want to go there. Okay. So make sure that you do have a good balance. If you want to apply to 15, 20, 25 schools because you want to apply to a lot of reach, go ahead and do that. But you should have at least 1 safety and you should have those core schools in your list as well. Okay. When you are looking at some of your cores and safeties, if you're within that like top 20% of the applicant pool, this is where there's more potential for merit aid for you. Okay. So with merit aid, it's typically students that are going to be in the top 20% of their incoming class that's going to receive that merit aid. Merit aid is based off of your GPA, test scores if you submit them, and they even look at like extracurricular activities, for example. Okay. So when we are categorizing your schools for you, if we think that you are too reach heavy, we are going to tell you. If it ends up being that you're like, I don't care, I only want to apply to my reach schools, no worries, but we are going to warn you ahead of time, like, and tell you realistically what schools we think you're going to be admitted to. Okay. So it's just really important to have a good balanced list because I want you to have options. So with decisions, there are different decisions a college can make. There's an admit. So we've read your application. You are admitted to our fall of 23 class. There's a provisional admit. Provisional admit means we will accept you based off of if you do well for your fall semester. So let's say you hear back in December and it's a provisional admit and they're going to say, first, we want to see your fall semester grades before we say yes to this. Okay. So there is the option for the provisional admit. There's the straight deny. Okay. So they're just denying you. And then there's the waitlist option, which I had mentioned earlier. Okay. So with the waitlist, what they've done is they're not denying you. They are putting you on the waitlist. Nick, can you guys put it on mute, please?
Alexa, shut up.
Shoot, hold on.
So with the wait list here, hold on, sorry, let me mute him. Okay. So with the wait list, what happens is you are going to be put into the wait list, and typically you are not released from the wait list until after the national commit day. So you won't hear back on a wait list until maybe June or July. So what this means is you would have to commit to another school. All right. And then if you were to be taken off the wait list at a later time, you can commit to that college instead and just notify your other school you won't be attending. So with the wait list, some of them will say, go ahead and submit any additional documents you would like us to review. And if you're doing anything for the wait list, it needs to be new information that they haven't already seen. So if you are working on your Gold Award, for example, or you're doing Eagle. So with that, you may have to submit your application before you're finished. If that's the case, then you can go ahead and update on any new awards or honors. You can give them fall semester grades. If you've taken a new SAT or ACT, you can let them know what your scores are on that as well. So we'll talk to you guys a little bit more about waitlists when those come in, but that's something that you may hear from a school as well. And then there's also deferred enrollment, which means they're not accepting you for the fall term, but they do want you to start at their school in the spring. Okay. TCU has this, for example, Texas Christian University. There are a few schools, and what they may say is, you know, we're not going to accept you for fall. We want you for spring, but here's a program that you can participate in for that fall semester. So maybe you get to travel abroad and you can take a few courses abroad, and then you would start at the school in the spring. So this isn't one that's like super common that we see all the time, but this could be an option as well. And if you do get this, then we'll go over your options with you. Okay. All right. Now, if you're waitlisted, again, you're going to respond right away. Let them know that you do want to remain on the wait list. Okay. You're going to check in periodically with them. You don't have to, but you can. It's possible that they do hear back from students before May 1st. So like if you've made your decision in January, you can commit to your school, and then you're going to notify the others that you are not attending. And that allows them to maybe take off some students from the wait list. So you could check in with them. And then, like I said, providing them with any new information. Now, a lot of times I have students asking me if they can appeal a decision, like a denial, for example. There are schools that will specifically state, we are not going to accept any appeals. And then there are colleges that do allow this. There are too many times where it's the parent that wants to do the appeal for the student. The parent calls and like, can I reach out to the admissions office? Any type of appeal, any type of communication needs to be coming from you, the student. It is not the parent applying. Okay, so with the appeal, if you were to do this, it has to include new information. Again, you cannot appeal an admissions decision with the same information you submitted in your application. It's not going to change. They're going to still have that denial for you. All right. With the appeal, not only are you providing them with new information that could help your application, but you also need to let them know why you are a good fit for their school and why their school is a great fit for you. Okay. You want to show them that if you change this decision, I'm going to be committing to your school right now. Okay. So that's really important with an appeal. It needs to be coming from you. Typically, this is a letter that you're going to be submitting along with supporting documentation like transcripts or test scores, for example. And each school is different. It could be we're mailing it to the admissions office, or it could be it's being uploaded through the portal. So if it comes down to this, we'll be able to help you guys with the process as well. Okay. So for now, here's some things that you should be focusing on. You need to make sure that you're meeting all admissions requirements. Okay. So course load, for example, and you should be, because this is something that we've talked to all of you about with your course schedule and everything. All right. If you have not spoken to your teachers yet, ask them about letters of recommendations. As a reminder, it's core subjects, English, math, history, or science. You can choose language if you are going to be majoring in language. Otherwise, I would try to stay away from that. And they should be coming from like 10th or 11th grade teachers. You can also ask any senior year teachers that you have now. But if it was a teacher that you only had in 9th grade, that's too long ago. A college is not going to accept that. Okay. You should be working on your essays, finalizing those. All right. So there's Common App, UC. Some schools have individual applications. There's also honors colleges. I'll show you the honors colleges on the Common App itself too. So when you are applying, there are certain schools that have the option to apply to the honors college. Some of them, it's just you're simply considered with the honors college when you submit your app. Others, they require additional essays. So essentially, it's another supplemental essay that you need to write. Okay. You could schedule interviews with the colleges that are allowing it. As I had mentioned, some of them, they will reach out to you directly once they receive your application. Okay. Visit the college. Again, if you're not able to, then do the virtual tours. You should be requesting information from the colleges and reaching out to department heads as well. I know this seems like busy work, but it can help you when it comes time to write the supplemental essays. So you'll notice with the supplements, a lot of the schools are, why are you choosing our school? Why do you want to be here? So if you're able to actually speak with an admissions officer or a department head and you learn some things about their school that's maybe not just listed on their general website, that's going to help you answer that question of why do you want to attend here? Okay. It's also good for you to just see what their programs have to offer and how they're different from other schools. So if you have not done any demonstrated interest with reaching out to department heads, I do suggest that you do that now. Okay. All right. So essays. I know, again, we've been working with you guys on this the past few months. All right. But just kind of like general thing is like, what is the essay for? Okay. Obviously on your application, they're going to see your courses. They're going to see your grades. If you've taken a community college course, it's going to be listed there. They're going to see general extracurricular activities with a very, very brief description. But this is your opportunity to really tell the college, like, this is who I am. This is what I'm passionate about. These are my values. This is what drives me. Okay. So it should not be an essay where it's just you're listing everything you've participated in. Okay. And this is what we've seen with some students in their first draft. Like, colleges don't want to read a resume. They want to know who you are. They don't really get to see that by just looking at your grades and a few extracurricular activities. Okay. So what's important to you? It's going to help the school see if you're a good fit for their college. Okay. Because that's what they're looking at. They want students that are going to be a good fit, that are going to be successful. They're going to participate in research opportunities. They're going to take advantage of the different clubs and activities they have on campus. Okay. So this is your way to really just honestly brag about yourself. I know it's really hard to do because when you're writing essays in high school, like, you're reading books and you're interpreting those books, but you're not actually, talking about yourself. And so this is your chance to really do it with the essays for like Common App, for example. There's this little bit more broad topic compared to the UCs, but don't be afraid to brag. Okay. So here again, it should reveal your passions, your goals, your values, your hopes, your dreams. What do you want to be? What has shaped you? Okay. We tell you it should show, not tell. And what we mean by this, and some of the things that we've indicated in the actual critiques to you guys, is you tell us that you're a changed person. You tell us that you're a leader, but you don't actually show us and provide us with good examples or stories. Okay. So don't just tell us that you've changed. You need to show us how you've actually changed. Who were you before this specific event and who are you now? Okay. So just keep that in mind. You want to allow the reader to really like catch on to your story. Okay. Show like emotion in it, be descriptive with it. So that's what's important here. Don't just be very basic and say, okay, these are the extracurriculars I've participated in. What have you done with those? Okay. Things that you should avoid. Again, we've talked a little bit about these in like brainstorming, but like potentially a controversial subject. One thing I mentioned to students is that one of the Common App essays is when you challenge or question a belief or idea. Like some of you are applying to a religious school, yet you're saying you don't believe in God. You have to be careful with certain topics you write on based off of the schools that you're applying to. okay? Overdone, overused topics. What I mean by that a lot of times is students will talk about playing a specific sport and how they didn't make the team, but then they worked really hard over summer and they came back and they made varsity. Everybody writes about that. Okay, so you need to be careful with it. You don't want to just look the same as every other student. This is your opportunity to really stand out. Okay, mission trips is a big one too. A lot of students like to talk about mission trips. Okay, we mentioned trying to sound unnaturally intellectual. There's sometimes when we read the essays and we're like, do they really talk this way? You know, based off of conversations and stuff we've had, do they really sound like this? Or using just, you know, you prep for like SAT and ACT. So sometimes these words that you're using, they don't actually flow with your writing. So those are just some things that we say to be careful with as well when you're writing your essays. Okay. All right. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go through the actual Common Application itself. Okay. So when you go onto the actual Common App here, you're going to have either the sign in option or the create an account option. If you haven't yet created your account, go ahead and do that right now. All right. All right, so I'm going to get rid of the school on here right now because you may not have added any colleges yet. So once you create your Common App account and you're logged in, this is what it's going to look like. So as of right now, I have no individual colleges listed here. All right. And what that means is I can still work on the actual application itself, but then there is a section where you have to answer school specific questions as well. So what you're able to do here is in order to add a college that you are applying to, what you'll do is you're going to go to college search. All right. This is where you can type in the name of the school. So I'm just going to put USC. Okay. You're going to go ahead and click this little plus sign right here that says add college. All right. And now if I click on dashboard, I don't just get the welcome message. It's going to start listing all of the schools that I've added to my Common Application. All right. So this is where you're going to end up finding the school specific questions, which I will go over. For now, I'm going to go through the general Common Application tab. So the one here that says Common App. This is the application itself that is being submitted to every school you apply to. Okay. So I entered in just some like general information to start with to kind of move along in this. So I don't have to fill it out while I'm here with you guys. But here, what we're going to see is under the profile section, you're going to have all these sections here. Let's go through them real quick. Okay, so we're going to have all these different sections that involve, so personal information, again, just your name. Okay. They have a question of, have you ever used any other names? So essentially what this means is if you have any other official school records where you've had another name on it, they need to be aware of that in case there are separate documents being sent from different schools. Okay, so if you ever had a name change, for example, maybe your mom remarried and your stepdad adopted you, and you changed your last name. If that's the case, then this is where you would go ahead and put if you've used any other names. All right. Obviously your date of birth. Here is your address. Okay. Some of you do have parents that are divorced. All right. So what you're going to be doing is for your permanent home address, you need to put the parent whose financial information is going to be submitted to the colleges. Okay, so we would essentially say this is the parent that you're living with. All right, so you're going to go ahead and list them for the permanent home address. If you have an alternate mailing address like a PO box or something, you can use that. Otherwise, I just say keep it as your home address. All right. They're going to ask you for basic contact details. So they want to know if your phone number. All right. Normally they don't actually reach out to you by phone. Most of their communication is going to be done by email or through the portal once you've applied, but you should put a phone number on here because some schools will ask if you give them permission to text you. So they may reach out just reminding you of specific deadlines, but I would put your cell phone here rather than your home phone. Okay. Demographic information, again, so they just want to know kind of gender, pronouns, you don't see an asterisk next to these, so they are not required, but I do tell students, like, you should fill out your application in its entirety. Even if it's not a required section, I recommend that you fill it out anyways. Okay. Hispanic or Latino, and then they're going to ask you how you identify yourself, regardless of how you indicated above. If you have a tribal identity or affiliation, so this would be, if there's like an Indian tribe that you affiliate with, you would go ahead and list it on here. If you are going to list it, you need proof of it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. There will be colleges that ask for proof if you indicate that there was like an Indian tribe that you've indicated on here. Okay, but yeah, so basic demographic information. If you have questions on that when I'm reviewing your application, let me know, but it's pretty self-explanatory there. Languages. This is a section that some students get confused on. So I know a lot of you are even in like your third, fourth AP level language, but maybe you don't consider yourself to be like fully proficient in it. What you can do here is, we have your primary language. Okay, so for me, for example, I picked English, and then I put down first language, speak, read, write, spoken at home. And then I did put Spanish as well, because you have the option where maybe you don't speak it, but you can actually read and write it. So if you do think that you are proficient in a language that you've studied, or maybe you even grown up speaking 2 or 3 different languages, you would go ahead and list them here. But for your primary language, you should have all boxes checked off. So first language, speak, read, write, spoken at home. And then for the additional language, you're just going to mark off the box that you feel like you are proficient in. Okay. I've never seen a college ask for proof of this, but at the same time, there usually are language placement exams that you have to take in order for a college to determine if you need to take a language at their school as part of their undergraduate requirements. So you don't want to lie and say you're proficient in it if you are not. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Next, we've got the geography and nationality. So they just want to know like what country you were born in, city of birth, your state, how long you've lived in the US. If you are a citizen, some of you may have dual citizenship as well. You can go ahead and list that. And then they are asking for social security number. So I do tell students, put in your social security number. Here it specifically says if applying for financial aid, which most of, if not all of you are. And in order for them to be able to link your application to the financial aid application, they do that by name, date of birth, and social. So you should definitely be putting your social security number on your application. You also need to make sure that it is the correct one. So what I recommend doing is you ask your parents for your actual social security card and you go based off of that. We did have a student in a previous year mix 2 numbers. And so when he submitted his application, his financial aid never linked. And it was a whole process of having to call all the schools and update the information. So just make sure you're putting in accurate information here for social security number. So you can talk to your parents if you don't know what it is. Right. Next, we have Common App Fee Waiver. Okay. So if you're looking at the Common App Fee Waiver here, they do give you the criteria that you need to meet in order to get a Common App Fee Waiver. All right. So I would say like the first 2 are probably the most common ones. So if you get free or reduced price lunch at school, or if you have ever received a fee waiver when taking the SAT or the ACT, those are options where you would be able to say, yes, I do meet the criteria for it. And then your high school counselor would actually have to confirm that for you. Okay. And then that way you get a fee waiver. So otherwise, you would just go ahead and check off no. This specific question here is for the Common App in general. There are some colleges that may have emailed you and told you that you are able to apply to their school for free. And like one example would be Cal Lutheran. They have like, you're a dean's candidate, apply to our school for free. You don't have to submit an essay. That fee waiver is going to be found under the school specific questions. So that does not apply to this section where it's just the general Common App Fee Waiver. And I'll be able to show you that Okay, so we would just go ahead and say no to this. And then here it's also, they're saying you strive. This is new this year. It hasn't been listed in previous years, but they're just saying it can give you some like mentors online, but you're working with us, so you can go ahead and say no to that as well. Okay, so next we have household information. So for those of you whose parents are married, you're going to go ahead and indicate married with both parents. If not, you have the option of indicating like divorced, for example, if you need to. They will want to know the specific year. This is also something that is going to be listed on the FAFSA, so you just want to make sure that you do have accurate information with the year of divorce. And then if you are putting divorce, what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to pick which, if you live with parent one or you live with parent two. So I had mentioned previously, your permanent home address should be the parent whose financials we're using for financial aid purposes. That should also be the parent that you indicate that you live with. Okay. If you're confused and you don't know which parent we're using, feel free to reach out. We can help you with that. Okay. This question here is they want to know if you specifically have any children. Okay. Now, then they're going to ask about basic information about your parent. So if it's mother, father, if they're living, obviously name. They do want to know what their occupation is. So there's a lot of different options here. If your mom, if it's a stay-at-home mom, then you can go ahead and list like homemaker, like I had put here. All right. So there's different options there. Education level. This is where if your parents do not have a bachelor's degree from here in the US, you would be able to put graduated from higher secondary school. Okay. But so that's specifically if they do not have a bachelor's degree, you're going to say graduated from high school. Now, obviously, if they do have a degree, we can go ahead and put graduated from college. Then they want to know how many institutions that they've attended, and you're going to have to list each college. So if you had, for example, two, maybe they got their bachelor's degree from Northridge, and then they went and got their master's degree from Cal Lutheran. This is where you'd be able to indicate the degrees and the schools that they attended. Okay. So they'll have like a general search bar where you can find the college. Right. So you're going to do the same thing for both parent one and parent two. You may not know this information, so when you get to this section, you're just going to want to have to sit down with your parents and get the information from them. Okay. Siblings, they want to know how many siblings you have. Again, this is to kind of see how many people are in the household. We're going to indicate the number in the household when we're filling out financial aid forms as well. So you just want to make sure that it is accurate. So profile and family information is pretty basic. So right here, this is where you're going to put in your, so it says current or most recent secondary high school. All right. So if you guys want to go ahead and fill this section in right now, if you haven't already, you're able to, if we like click change, for example, you're going to be searching for your school. You'll be able to put the name in here. All right. And then it'll pull it up. Now, the reason it says current or most recent is they want to know where you are attending now. Some of you have changed high schools over the past couple of years. Make sure you put in your current school that you are going to be graduating from. Date of entry for all of you should be 2019. Okay. Whether this is August or September, it depends on your school. So we'd be able to just list like 2019 and the month that you started. It doesn't have to be a specific day. Okay. The only way it would be like 2018 is if maybe you were held back for a year, but otherwise you should have a 2019 start date. Okay. They want to know if it's a boarding school. We don't have any of our students in a boarding school, I don't believe. So you would just say no to boarding school. And then they want to know if you are going to be graduating from the school. So you want to go ahead and indicate yes here. If you, like, let's say, you're moving, possibly for spring semester, or the family's thinking about moving. As of right now, I would still go ahead and just indicate that, yes, you're going to be graduating from your current school. If that changes, we can always update the colleges later on. But if you're not certain, keep it as you're going to be graduating from your current school. Okay. Graduation date. So you guys are going to be in 2023, and it's usually May or June, depending on your school. Okay. The next question here is they just want to know if there's anything that's affected your actual progression through high school. So none of you are graduating early. You're not graduating late. You haven't taken time off. You're not doing a gap year. So you should be marking off the box that says no change in progression. Okay. So here, now then we've got other secondary schools. So if you have changed high schools over the past couple of years, this is what you're going to need to do. You're going to have to indicate that you did attend another school. You're going to pick the specific school, okay? And then you're going to do the start date and the end date, and they want to know why you attended different schools, okay? This is also the section where if you have taken courses outside of your high school, like through Apex, UC Scout, BYU, for example, this is where you would also list them as a secondary high school. All right. In the explanation section, you could simply say, I was taking a AP Government, AP Economics class outside of my high school to get ahead. That's just an example of what you could include here, because you didn't technically change schools. You were just taking a course outside of your normal high school. But this is where you would list any additional high schools that may have transcripts on file for you. Okay. Next here, we have colleges or universities. So this is if you have ever taken like a community college course. So we do have students that take courses at like Pierce, Moorpark, Santa Monica College. This would be where you actually go ahead and list that. So what you'd be able to do is you're going to go ahead and indicate one, you'll be prompted to find your college. I have this preset as Moorpark's already in here, okay? And then you have the option here of if this was a dual enrollment. So a lot of you do take dual enrollment programs, dual enrollment classes where you're getting college credit, but also credit for your high school. You're going to go ahead and indicate dual enrollment with high school. Okay. If it was credit awarded directly by the college where you're taking the course strictly for college credit, you're going to go ahead and indicate credit awarded directly by college. Okay. Some of you have also taken summer programs at a college where you may have gotten college credit. Like maybe there was, you pay an extra $1 and you get 3 credits. If that was the case, you can indicate it as a summer program. Okay. And then they just want to know what your start and end date was again. So if it was, you just took the course for, let's say, fall semester, you would go ahead and say August of 21 to December of 21. It's dependent on when you've actually taken the courses. Okay. And you do not have a degree that you've earned. It's not a bachelor's, it's not an associate's. It was simply you were taking courses. So you're going to leave this section blank here. All right. One question I have here is, took a course through Mission Academy High School for health. You are going to list that as a secondary school as well. Yes. Okay. Now, as we continue on, this is where you're going to report GPA, for example, your class size. Okay. Another question is if you took a BYU course, yes, because that's an additional high school as well. Okay. So graduating class size, this can normally be found on your transcripts. If it's not there and you don't know what it is, go ahead and ask your counselor. It doesn't have to be exact. They're looking more for just if you're reporting rankings. All right. They do have class rank. There are a lot of high schools that don't rank anymore. So if you don't know what your exact number is, let's say 75 out of 500 kids, or if you're this decile, you can just go ahead and say none, because a lot of schools don't rank. Next, we have GPA Scale Reporting. So typically you're on a 4 or 5 scale. All right. 4 would be your unweighted academic GPA. 5 would be your weighted with like your AP courses. Okay. Every student is different with what they're going to report here. So as an example, a 3.5 on a 4 scale looks better than a 3.7 on a 5 scale. So realistically, unless your weighted GPA is above a 4.0, I suggest you list your unweighted GPA. Okay. And this is something that I'm able to go through when I'm reviewing your applications. I can go through this on here and I can let you know if you are putting the most accurate GPA. Okay. So fill in, what you want for right now, but then when I review it, I'll let you know if that's the correct GPA. Okay. But then you're able to list your weighted and unweighted, right? Next, we have your current or most recent year courses. So they want to know what you are enrolled in now for fall semester and what you are planning on taking for spring semester. In addition to getting your transcripts you're going to be sending, this is their way to make sure that you are meeting all admissions requirements. Okay. So most of you, if not all of you, are on a semester system, meaning you get a grade for fall and you get a grade for spring. So you're going to want to go ahead and mark off semester. I don't think any of you are on like a trimester or a yearly. So semester is going to be what you mark off. Next, they're going to want to know what course it is. All right. So here I just put 2 in as an example, but you're going to see that there are a lot of different options here for what you can include. So if you're in, I'll just put it, if you're in AP Calculus, for example, you're going to go ahead and indicate Calculus as your subject. And then we're going to go ahead and say AP Calculus AB as the course name. We're going to indicate the level as being AP. You'll see you have other options such as regular, advanced, college prep, dual enrollment, honors, IB. There's a lot of options here. All right.
Wait, hold on. Really quick question. So are you able to put, so I'm guessing you're not allowed to put electives into this as well?
No, you are.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got AP. Next, we've got the course 1 schedule. So they want to know, is this a full year course or are you only taking it first semester and second semester? Typically, the courses you're enrolled in are full year, with the exception of maybe government and econ. They usually split that between fall semester and a spring semester. Okay. So every other course should be year long. But if you are taking AP government and AP econ, you're essentially going to have that listed as 2 different courses, AP econ as first semester, and then, AP Gov as second. Okay. This is another thing I'll be able to, again, confirm once I'm reviewing your app, but you need to be sure you're listing everything you are currently enrolled in and everything you plan on taking in the spring. Okay. Next, we have honors. So here for honors, they want to know if you want to report any honors that are related to your academic achievements. Okay. So when they say academic achievements, this is not sports related like MVP. All right. So this would consist of honor roll. Okay. You are going to go ahead and put when you've received honor roll. So 9th, 10th, 11th. Okay. Honor roll is typically a school recognition. It's not like a state, it's just offered through your school. And then what you're going to do here is also you can list like CSF, NHS. There are some high schools that offer specific academic honors based off of subjects. So maybe you received like high honors for mathematics. You would be able to go ahead and list that here as an honors or an award. Okay. One question I had is if you'd be reporting IB diploma here, you're not going to as an award or honor. No. Okay. Continue. Okay. They want to know if there are any community programs or organizations that helped you with free assistance for your application process. Most likely it's 0 for all of you. Okay. And then under future plans here, this is where we can indicate your career interest. You're going to see they have a lot of different options here within the menu. And then they also want to know the highest degree you intend to earn. So some of you, it's, I'm going for my bachelor's degree. Others, you may say, I want to go to law school. I want to go to medical school. Okay. This is not you indicating your actual major. This is just saying this is what my career interest is, and this is the degree I intend to earn. It's okay if you change your mind later on. Okay. Question, NHS is an honor or award. That was one I had mentioned with a CSF that could be listed there. All right, so future plans. Next, we have the testing section. Okay, so this is where you are going to self-report your scores. All right, so with self-reporting your scores, you're going to see here you have the option of the most common for our students. It's going to be ACT, SAT, AP, IB. Okay, those are the common ones that you're going to find here. So I do recommend that you self-report your scores, all right? And what you have the option of doing here is once you say yes, there's going to be the drop-down menu of which scores you are going to be submitting, all right? So some of you are doing ACT, SAT. If you're not and you are only reporting AP, for example, we can go ahead and indicate AP subject tests. And then I'm just going to put SAT for now as well. So once you've checked off those two options, there's going to be a separate section where we can individually enter in those scores. Okay. International applicants, we don't have any students that are applying internationally right now. This doesn't mean that you are applying to like England for UK schools. This is if you were in India, for example, and you're applying here in the US. So you would just keep that as no, right? Next, we have the actual SAT scores. So here they want to know how many pass scores do you wish to report. So let's say we wanted to go ahead and list one score. They want to know if you took it with the essay. And then they do want to know if there are any future SATs you expect to be taking. So maybe you've taken it in August, and then now you're going to take it again in November. All right. So we can go ahead and list a future score or future test date. Sorry. So here we'll go ahead and say we're taking it November of 2022. So they know when to expect another score from you. And then after that, what you're going to do is this is where you can indicate your current scores that you are reporting. So here they want to know what your reading and writing score is. We're going to say a 770, and we'll just go ahead and say we took that in, I think it was August 27th of 2022. And then you'll go ahead and indicate your math score. If it was from the same date, then we're going to go ahead and list it the same date. But if you are using a separate English and a separate math from multiple test dates, you just need to make sure you are reporting multiple pass scores, because you can select your highest score from different dates if you wanted to do that. All right. One question, should you report an SAT score that's not what you want it to be? No, if you are not within the range of the schools that you're looking at and we are not submitting your score, do not put SAT scores on your application. Okay, because it's optional. You don't have to do it. Okay. Next, we have AP. This is where it may be similar to IB, for example. All right. So here they want to know how many AP tests you wish to report. This includes any AP tests you plan on taking in spring of 2023 before you graduate. So let's say I'm going to report 3. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and indicate that I took in May of 22, I took the AP biology exam and I received a 4. All right. And then for future tests, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and indicate in May of 23, I'm going to put down government. And then you're not going to enter in a score because obviously you don't have it yet. You're just reporting that you're going to be taking it. And then I'm also going to go ahead and indicate with government that I'm also taking economics. You will need to speak with your teacher if you don't know which one you will be taking, because there is macro and then there is also micro, right? Some of you are specifically enrolled in AP macro. Others, your high school may simply just say you're in AP Econ. So check with your counselor to see which test it is in fact you're taking. All right. So this is where you're going to, any past tests and any future, do not report anything with a 1 or a 2. Right. Next, we have the activities section. All right. So here, you are allowed to report any activities that you've participated in. So when it comes to the common application, you're allowed to list 10 activities. Okay. So here, if you don't have 10 activities listed on your resume, then you have 7 or 8. Go ahead and list all of them. If you are a student who has participated in a lot since 9th grade, what we'll need to do is you're going to find the ones that are most meaningful to you. All right. So most meaningful, and also ones that show more consistency. So if there's an activity that you have participated in from 9th grade up until this point, and you're still going to be doing it in senior year, that should be listed. If you have to choose only 10, and maybe there was one volunteer activity you did for 2 hours, that doesn't need to be listed on your application. So here you're going to go ahead and say that you do wish to report activities, and then you have the option here to start entering them in. So you'll see I've put 1 in already. And what you're able to do here is you're going to go ahead and see from the drop-down menu, it gives you a lot of options for what the actual activity type is. Okay. So there's internships, there's family responsibilities, there's cultural. Okay. So here I've entered in just as athletics. For the sport team, I chose soccer. Okay. Position or leadership description. Max characters is 50. It's very, very short. So what I put in as position and leadership was varsity captain, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So if it's captain for all 4 years, you go ahead and mark that down. Otherwise, if it's just a general position, you can indicate what position you play for the team. Okay. Organization name. So some of you that play sports, you play for your high school, but you also play travel ball, for example. If you want to list both of them as separate activities because you want to try to fulfill those 10 that are allowed, you can list them as 2 different things. So you can do travel ball for one, and then you can do high school for another. I know travel ball is an even, bigger time commitment than what high school may be. You're practicing more often, more games. So you can list them as 2 different things. Otherwise, if we have to try to combine them because we're cutting down on only being able to list 10 when you have 20, you can do that. All right. So organization name right here, I would list it as Thousand Oaks High School because I'm listing it as a school sport. Okay. And then you have an area where you, in 150 characters, you can briefly describe what this was. So anything you accomplished, what the activity was, certain recognitions you have. So here I've indicated our team was CIF champions all 4 years. Well, it'd be all 3 years. While playing, I earned scholar athlete each academic year, as well as MVP. All right. When I am reviewing applications, I will also be reading the descriptions for your activities to let you know if those need to be changed. If you need to maybe elaborate on something a little bit more, I will be going through that as well. All right. But it's very short. On the UC application, you get to write a lot more information. They give you more room, but for Common App, you only have 150 characters. Okay. Next, they want to know what your participation grade level was. So here I've indicated 9th, 10th, 11th, and I will be doing it in 12th grade. So you want to go ahead and mark off 12. Okay. And then we have timing of participation. So because I indicated it was the high school team, I just went ahead and put it during the school year. But there may be certain activities that you participate in that are all year. Maybe you just did an internship during the school break, for example. So you'll just have to mark off the participation that's relevant to the activity that you're listing. Okay. Now, the way that they ask you about the amount of hours is they want to know how many hours per week and how many weeks per year. All right. So a lot of students get confused with the hours because it could vary. Maybe there's 1 week where you're doing 5, there's another week where you're doing 10. What you can do is you can just go ahead and average it out, put 7 or 8 hours, and then you're going to mark off the amount of weeks. If it's something where it's just during the school year, let's say you're in school for 9 months, you're going to go ahead and say, okay, it's going to be 36 weeks that you've participated in it. Okay. One question I have here too is under the activities, if this is where a job would go, yes, you would be able to go ahead and list that as a activity here. So you're going to see from the drop down menu, there's career oriented, there's also, as you scroll down, you're going to see work paid. Okay, so this is where you can list a current job. Let's say you babysit and you're paid to do that. You can go ahead and list that as a paid job as well. Or if you tutor kids and you're paid to tutor them, this would also be a paid job. Okay, so they have a lot of different areas that you can pick from. Their student government. So if you're in like ASB, for example, so you'll want to go through and just mark off the specific activity type that corresponds with what you're listing. Okay, and like I said, you're allowed 10. Right. So next after this is we have the actual essay. So this is the Common App essay that you guys are working on. All right. Now, when I first logged in, I added USC as one of my colleges. Okay. So you're going to see here that it does indicate that USC requires the Common App essay. There could be some schools on here that don't require it, all right? And it would be listed on the not required section. But most likely you are applying to schools that do require the Common App essay. So here, what you're gonna go ahead and do is you're gonna check off the specific prompt that you're answering. So those 1 out of that 7 that you chose, and then you're simply going to copy and paste it, okay? You'll notice here, it gives you minimum words of 250, maximum of 650. You know, realistically, your essay should be a minimum of 500 words, if not more. But you are not able to submit if you're above 650. It'll mark it off as read and you can't continue. So you need to make sure you do meet that 650 word limit. Okay, but this is where you're going to go ahead and copy and paste it. You do not have to put a title in with your essay. You're simply marking off the prompt and you're plugging in your essay, and that's it. From here, we have the additional information section. So this is, you can find these on your custom college plan account. How I'd mentioned, sometimes there's extra essays there that you can answer. So one of them that's listed there is, you know, disruptions such as COVID-19 can have a deep, long-lasting impact. If you need this space to describe those impacts, feel free to do so. So if COVID did affect you in a serious way and you're still dealing with it, you can go ahead and write something on it if you wanted to. You would check off yes and include that in the box. The other question here is if you wish to provide details of circumstances or qualifications not reflected in your app. A lot of students don't have anything to write here, and that is perfectly fine, all right? But if you need to be able to explain, let's say, a poor grade, for example, you were typically a straight A student, you got a C one semester because, let's say you were out with COVID, or there was a death in the family and you missed school. This would be your opportunity to explain that particular grade. If you, let's say, suffer from like anxiety, for example, or if you have ADHD or like a learning disability that you would like the school to know about, this is also your chance to do that. But don't feel like you have to include something here. A lot of students skip this section entirely. Okay. I will also make sure that what you're writing is appropriate. Okay. So I'll be reviewing that too. Right. Next, we have the courses and grades section. So as I had mentioned earlier on the Common application, not every school would require you to complete this, but as you can see, USC does. So you'll need to make sure that you do have a copy of your transcripts in front of you. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and mark off yes, saying I can access a copy of my transcripts. And from here, we're going to start entering in the courses and the grades that you've taken. All right. So for 9th grade, we're going to go ahead and click on edit 9th grade. All right. Now your school is the school that you entered in on the Common application is going to come in that drop down menu here. So I'm going to select Thousand Oaks High School. Your school year is going to be 1920 because that's your 9th grade school year. Okay. Grading scale. I think all of our students are on an A through F grading scale. There are some schools that may do a 1 through 100, but I think everybody's A through F. So you'll just need to obviously look at your transcripts. If the grade reported next to the course is A, B, C, D, F, you're selecting A through F. And as I had mentioned earlier, I think everybody is on a semester system as well. Okay. So next, what we're able to do is this is where we're going to go ahead and enter in the specific subject. So you're going to go through your transcripts for 9th grade and enter in every single course you've taken and all the grades you've received. So here I'm going to indicate English as my subject. My course name is English 9 AB. So you need to copy what is written on your transcript. All right. The course level, I'm indicating this as regular or standard because it's not an honors, it's not an AP, and it's not an IB. So I'm just listing it as regular. Okay. Next, we have the semester grades. So you're going to go through and you're going to mark off semester 1 grade. Okay. They do plus and minus on the Common App. Semester 2 grade. And then you do not have a final grade because it is a semester system. So go ahead and leave it as just semester 1 and 2 and leave final blank. All right. Same thing when it comes to credits. You're going to go ahead and list semester 1 credits, semester 2 credits, and you don't have to list anything for final. This is what you would do like if you were on more of like a trimester system. So only worry about the first 2 columns for the semester and for the semester credits. I know there's an asterisk next to it, but you're able to submit without final being entered in. So keep that in mind. Okay. And then you're going to go through and each time you're going to just select add a new course and you're going to pick from that drop down menu additional courses. Okay. Okay. So if you have a secondary high school, so as I mentioned previously, if you took Apex or you took UC Scout, National University, what you're going to do is you're going to click on add course from another transcript on this bottom left side here. And this is where you're able to pick the Apex, the National University, whatever additional secondary school you entered in, you're going to be able to choose that from the drop-down menu and then enter in the course and grade that translates from that transcript. Okay. All right, so now this is going to be for 9th grade. As I hit continue, now it's going to take me through 10th grade, 11th, 12th. Okay, so with 12th grade here, what I want you to keep in mind is, do you have 12th grade courses on your transcript with official grades? Okay, most of you are going to say no to this, all right? But if you happen to take, there's a course on your transcript and they've actually put it down as a 12th grade, they've listed there as 12th grade and you have the course and the grade on it, then you're going to go ahead and say, yes, I do have a grade. But realistically for all of you, it should be no as of right now, because your courses are still in progress. You haven't received a grade yet. So you're just going to leave it as no. Okay. Next, what we have here for other courses, and let me show you this, is do you have any other courses on your transcript with grades? This may include middle school or summer courses. Okay, so within the 9th, 10th, 11th grade here, you are listing all courses and grades you've taken during the actual school year. Under other courses, this is where you can list summer classes. So if you took any classes after 9th, 10th, and this summer, you're going to go ahead and list them here. Or there's also middle school courses, and you're not listing every middle school course, but if you took an upper level math, let's say you took algebra or geometry in middle school, you would be able to list that here. Or if you took your first year of language in middle school. So some of you took Spanish 1 in middle school, and then you started with Spanish 2 in high school. So really the courses they're talking about for middle school here are going to be upper level math or language. And this is where you would go ahead and be able to enter them in. Okay. The thing that's a little bit tricky here with the way it works is you do not have the option to enter in your middle school information, like your actual middle school itself, the name. So even though you are listing a middle school course, you are using the high school name. So I'm saying Thousand Oaks High School, but my school year for 8th grade would have been 2018 and 19. Okay. And then grading scale, if it was A through F, if you were on a semester system, okay, you're going to go ahead and enter those in. Okay. So that would be the courses and grades section. All right. So this is essentially the main Common App, like I said, that goes to every single Common App school you apply to. Okay. And then next, what we have here is we're going to go to the My Colleges section. Right. And I do have USC listed. If I want to add additional colleges, I can. So let's do Cal Lutheran. Okay. Now, if I go back to the dashboard, you're going to see I have Cal-Lu and I have USC as my two schools. All right. Now, I'm going to go on to USC's. So what I'm able to do is I can click on USC here. And now you're going to notice that on the left-hand side here, I have questions. Okay. So these are the USC's school-specific questions. All right. If you want to read over all the information USC has to offer here, you can see that. You're going to see kind of like what their deadlines are. One thing that's important to note here is there are, and I have it on your program, but USC offered early action this year. They haven't had it previously. So in past years, it was if you want to be considered for merit aid, you need to apply by December 1st. Now, if you want to be considered for merit aid, you need to apply early action November 1st. Keep that in mind. It's on your custom college plan account too. But if you are applying to USC, you need to apply early action to get merit aid. Okay. Now, with USC, there are certain programs, which I've highlighted here, that you are not able to apply early action under. So you would need to apply by December 1st. It's a little confusing. If you guys are applying to USC and you have questions about this, I can answer for you it on an individual basis. But as of right now, what you should look at is if you're thinking of USC, you want to apply by November 1st in order to be considered for merit aid. Okay. So here I'm going to go to the question section. So what we're doing here is, again, this is specific to USC. They want to know when you're planning on starting. So fall of 23. And then your admissions plan. Are you applying regular or are you applying early? Okay. This is where they're asking you if you intend to use one of those school-specific fee waivers. So earlier, I had mentioned that there's the general common app fee waiver, which you can get if you're on free or reduced price lunch, or if you've had an SAT, ACT fee waiver in the past. This section right here is specific to USC. All right. So if none of these apply, then you just say, I'm not applying for a USC fee waiver. Next, they want to know if you'd like to apply for need-based financial aid. Okay. So this is if you're submitting the FAFSA, we can go ahead and say yes. All right. And then each school will have a section where they ask you about SAT or ACT. You're going to notice here, they're indicating for this application cycle, they're offering students to apply without SAT or ACT. So then you just need to let them know, I would like to apply with my scores, or do not include them. Okay. We have religious preference. It is not required. If you don't feel comfortable putting it, you can ignore it. Okay. Next, they want to know if you are a Daca. So you have to indicate yes or no. And then if you are interested in participating in the military ROTC program, I have a couple students that are doing that, but otherwise you would say no to that as well. Next, we have the academics question. This is where you are picking your primary and secondary major if they allow it. So this is school specific. For USC, this is where I'm going to say what I'm applying. All right. So you're going to see a lot of different options here. But if I want to apply under computer science as my primary major, and let's say for my secondary, I'm not sure and I want to go in undecided, you could do that. Okay. All right. And then if you have a pre-professional emphasis, you would like to go ahead and indicate, you can here. So if you're thinking of going pre-med or pre-law, you can do that. Okay. Next, what you're going to see here is USC's individual questions that you need to answer. So these are their supplements. So describe how you plan to pursue your academic interests and why you want to explore them at USC. Feel free to address your first and second choice major selections. Okay. And then it's 250 words maximum. Here you have, if you had a gap year, then explain that. I don't think any of you had a gap year, so you can ignore it. It's not required. Then we have the describe yourself in 3 words. What's your favorite snack? Best movie of all time? So these are just some of the short ones you're going to answer here. Okay. Now here, because I picked computer science, I have additional questions that I need to answer for their School of Engineering. Okay. If I was not applying under computer science, I would not be doing these additional essays. So keep that in mind. Depending on the major you are applying to, you may have additional essays you have to write. Okay. Next, we have contacts. So if you consent to be contacted by your mobile phone, text message, whatever, you can go ahead and mark that off here as well. Okay. Context and background. So here you're going to notice they do indicate that there's students' academic record and extracurricular activities are impacted by family responsibilities or other circumstances. So they just want to know if any of these apply to you, you can go ahead and mark it off. Maybe you don't have the opportunity to participate in a lot of extracurricular activities because you have to take care of siblings because your parents work full time. If that's the case, you can go ahead and indicate taking care of siblings. Okay. This is new. They didn't have this last year. Family, they would like to know if you have any siblings that are applying to USC, if you've ever had relatives attending, and if anybody is employed. These are common questions that schools are going to ask you. Okay. The last one is they want to know if you've had any disciplinary violations, like if you've been suspended or anything. Okay. One question I have about supplementals, do they count as much as personal statements? Yes, 100%. You need to do your homework and you need to answer all the supplemental questions that they're asking. Even if they have optional supplements and you can answer them, I suggest you do that. Okay. So this is the question section. Next, we have recommenders and Ferpa. This is where your teacher recs are going to come in, your counselor recs. So you have to do the Ferpa release authorization. It's pretty simple. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on complete release authorization. And here what they're going to do is they're just indicating like you're going to have your records being sent to these colleges. You want to waive your right to review the letters. All right. So here what it is they want to make sure that when recommendation letters are being sent, that you have no say in what's being written. They want to make sure it's actually coming from the teacher. So you do want to waive your right to review them. If your teacher wants to give you the letter and say, hey, read this over, that's fine. But for purposes of Ferpa, you need to waive your right to review it. So we're going to check off the box saying you understand it. You acknowledge that all the schools you've attended can release records. Okay. And then you're going to indicate again, I waive my right to review all recommendations and I understand my waiver or no waiver pertains to all colleges. And then you just type in your name as your signature and you put in today's date or whatever date you're doing it. Okay. So now once I've done that, you're going to see here that I have check marks here. And I'm also able to go through and see what forms are needed and if anything has been submitted. So for USC, there's the counselor section, and you're going to notice this is linked to Naviance right now because the high school that I entered in used Naviance. So it's linked to Naviance. And what they're going to do is through your Naviance program and through Common App, when your teachers or your counselors submit any forms, it'll end up showing here in a box the date that it was submitted to the school. Okay. Same thing for teachers. You're going to notice that they don't require a teacher rec, but they do allow an optional one, which means you should be submitting a teacher rec. They allow it. It can just help with your application. Okay. So when they do that, again, they're going to be able to see that. And then you don't need to put an advisor or anything. You don't need to add me because you're going to be providing me with your login credentials. I'm going to log in on your site and review the app. So you don't need to add me as an advisor on here. All right. Now you'll notice for USC, they don't allow any other or personal recommenders. Okay. I will add a school that does so I can show you. But make sure you log in and you do your Ferpa release. And then when you log into your Naviance program, if you have that, what you're going to do is under the colleges I'm applying to section, you're going to type in your email address that you use for Common App, and it's going to link it together. Okay. Let me add in one more school here real quick so I can show you guys. So I'm going to go to Chapman's recommenders and Ferpas. All right. So with Chapman here, it's the counselor, it's the teacher, and then you're going to notice they do have an other recommender. All right. So with the other recommender, this is where you are going to invite them so they can submit it for you. So this one you're going to see, they don't actually require it, but you are allowed to submit one. And this is where it's coming from. They allow an arts, clergy, coach, college access counselor, employer, or other. So other can be like volunteer supervisor, for example. So when you want to invite an other recommender, what you're going to do is you're going to provide their email address. You're going to put in what it falls under. So if it's, let's just say you're doing your soccer coach, okay? Then you're going to put in their name, their last name, and you want them to, would you like this other recommender to complete a recommendation for your Chapman University application? Once you say yes and you click invite, this recommender is going to get an email directly from the Common App, which allows them to upload the letter for you. So this is the way that you invite other recommenders to submit letters. For those of you that don't use Naviance, this is also the way that you would end up inviting any teachers, okay? It would just be listed right here under the teacher rec part. You're going to be able to go ahead and put invite teachers, and then you're going to pick the subject, put in the email address, and invite them that way. All right. One question I have is, if you got a letter of rec outside of the school, is there a place on the Common App where you can include it yourself? No. It needs to be coming from the person that wrote the letter. So you have to invite them by email and they can submit it. The only other way that you can do it is if you have a copy of the letter and you don't want to ask the recommender to do it electronically, you would have to mail it to the college, to their admissions office. But I'll be honest, it's a pain in the butt. You don't know when they receive it. You're going to constantly have to check in with them. You should be doing everything electronically. It allows you to keep track of it more easily. Okay. So next, we've got the review and submit button. Now, you will only have this if every part of your application has been completed, where you can review, and then there's going to be the option to click on the submit button. So as of right now, obviously we don't have it because the application's not filled out entirely, but this is where you would review and submit under that button for each school. Okay. So that's kind of the general Common App here. I will be sending you guys the webinar, but I do suggest that you guys take the time this weekend to go through it and start working on it. All right, mark off certain supplemental essays that you need to write, make a list. But yeah, that's kind of it I have for today. I thank you guys for joining me. Appreciate it. Hopefully this helps, and now you guys know, kind of how to get started and what to work on. Let's see. So I have a question here from Carolyn. Would you submit summer courses through community college here? So in the courses section of the application here, this is specifically high school courses. So if it was a dual enrollment course, you would be able to list it under other courses. But if it was specifically a college course and you only got college credit, you actually don't list the college courses on the application itself. You just need a copy of the official transcript sent. Okay. Another question is, when adding courses for 9th, 10th, 11th, do you add electives as well? For the common application, yes, you will list every course you've taken and every grade you received. Okay. And then there's also, where would I add a summer course for summer before 9th? You would list that in the other courses section as well, right here, because this has also indicated middle school. So essentially you're listing middle school and summer school courses here. All right, so another one that we have here is, where would you submit courses taken at a Stanford summer session? If you weren't specifically getting credits for that, what you would do is you would list it as an extracurricular activity. Otherwise, if you were getting credit for it, you would go ahead and list it under colleges and universities, and you would just put summer program, but you would need transcripts sent in order to get credit. And then, Brooke, I see your question, but email me directly, because I'll have to look at that for the major you're choosing. So send me an email so I remember. Okay. Thanks, Connie. Okay, Brooke, I do see your other message. Yeah, so if it's because you are a first-year student, if LSA is in fact the college you're applying to, you would be first year. Kira's question is, where would you list Cosmos? Cosmos, you would go ahead and list that as an extracurricular activity as well. And if you guys have any other questions, please feel free. You can also email me. Okay, give me a call next week at the office. But otherwise, thank you again for joining. I appreciate it, guys. One question for transcripts, you would, just to have a copy for yourself, you would go ahead and get it through Aries, but the counselor at the school would be sending it directly through Naviance when applying. Yeah, Quinn, you could repurpose the Common App essay. That's perfectly fine. All right, thanks you guys. Have a good rest of the weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Somebody asked what Naviance was. If you don't know what it is, it means that your school does not use it. So with Naviance, there's just a certain program that some high schools use for career and major search. It also is the opportunity for you to request recommendation letters. So if you don't know what it is, your school probably does not use it. For those of you that do have Naviance, a lot of times you get it in 9th grade and then you never use it again. So it's really important for you to talk to your counselors. If you're not sure what your login credentials are, you should reach out to them. I would even send them an email today and just ask them what it is. Usually the counselor at the school has a meeting with the seniors, at the beginning of fall to go over this with you because you use it in your senior year. So I would go ahead and just reach out to them if you're not sure what your login credentials are. All right. Another person did have an interview already. Definitely not too late to send a thank you note. Go ahead and do that, Mia. That's fine. And what you can do is you can send it to the Office of Admissions and then just obviously make it attention to their name. Okay. The other question is it bad to send AP scores of 3 or 4? It's not. Every school is different with what they allow for college credit. They will never accept a 1 or 2 for college credit, but a 3 or 4 they can. So for purposes of application, I would go ahead and list it on there. And then once you've kind of made your final decision, you're going to be sending in your actual score reports. Okay. Let's see. Okay, early decision. Like I'd mentioned, it does increase your chances of getting into the school. And then another question was, for applying EA, does it look better to apply to less schools early? It doesn't matter. You can apply to as many schools early action that offer it.